Hey guys, this is Kenny from learnhowtoprosper.com, and I want to take just a minute to walk through something that I think is really critical to becoming prosperous, and that is how we think about time and planning and how that correlates with whether we're broke or successful. Now, let me show what I mean here. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact of short versus long-term thinking. Now, I'd say thinking and planning as well. Now, what we mean here, and you've probably noticed this maybe in your own life, I certainly have in mine, is that if you look at a person that is destitute, you're looking at someone who is probably thinking only about 1 hour to maybe 3 hours ahead, right? Basically, they're just thinking about their next meal. What are they going to eat? How will they survive? They're looking for that. Now, if you're looking for someone who's broke, so maybe not destitute, maybe not living on the street, but pretty much broke, doesn't have a couple extra dimes to rub together, they probably look day to day. So maybe they look 8 to 16 hours ahead, right? Now, if you look at what I would call the impoverished, and so this is someone who is considered perhaps, well, we might say poor, not destitute, not broke, but living just in a very short time window. So usually when you're looking at impoverished, I'm also looking at what I would also call the lower middle class in many respects, especially in today's world. They probably look maybe 1 week ahead. They go from 1 week to week maybe. And then the fourth category of people are what I call the proper middle class. This is where a lot of folks find themselves today. And a lot of the middle class is really living what I'd call paycheck to paycheck, right? And the reason why is, they're just barely getting by. And the way this happens is that these individuals will spend every extra penny that they get. So, for example, let's say they get a raise, they get a 3% raise, or maybe they get a bonus. Instead of putting that away and creating some margin in their life between their earnings and their expenses, instead of allowing for some margin here, they pretty much just they spend it. They'll go get a more expensive car. They'll go and get an RV. They'll go buy some property, like a timeshare, and so they're always just living just paycheck to paycheck, and that's no place to live. When you're in a situation where if you were to lose your job or your one stream of income, and now you've got nothing, or you could be out on the street, or you can foreclose. Bank can foreclose your home within 2 or 3 months. That's no place to live, no way to live. The fifth is what I call the upper. I'm going to say this is the upper middle class. Now, in the upper middle class, a little bit more forward thinking, right? They're thinking a little bit further down the road, maybe 3 to 6 months. I'm just going to run ahead here. And then the wealthy, and for our purposes, there's probably people who are, make maybe a $250,000 to $1 million a year or more. They're looking 1 to 2 years ahead. And then what I would call the super rich, So this is the multimillionaire. They're 5, 10, 20 years ahead. Right? Now, I've observed this in my own life and in the life of others, that if you can start thinking now, change your thinking from beyond a shorter window. So for example, if you're just living paycheck to paycheck, take the time, if you're in this category for example, take the time to think, like, where am I going to be 1 year from now, 2 years from now? Try to move up here, so you're looking, 2 to 3 months, and then 1 to 2 years, and then eventually you want to get into this range. Once you can start thinking 3 to 6 months, 1 to 2 years ahead, then you can start applying certain practices that will ensure that you have way more wealth in your life. And the way that typically people get broke, the way that people end up destitute, broke, and impoverished in these areas, and maybe even to some degree, is the middle class. It's not on how much that they spend per se. It's on the lack of saving or preparing or planning in advance. Like they say, it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend, right? Remember this. How much you spend. Spend is key. Not how much you make, but how much you spend. Because if you're thinking ahead, you can take those funds and either, and you're saying, well, the place I want to be 2 to 3 years from now is, I want to have $20,000 cash in the bank as a rainy day fund. I want to have 1 or 2 streams of income. Maybe I've got a rental property. I want to have all my debt paid off. You start looking ahead so that you're not just living in the moment. Because the most dangerous place to be is just living in the moment, when all you're thinking about is, well, I just want to think about what I can do now, what I can eat now, what kind of recreation I can do now, what I can have right now. Instead of thinking, well, if I can put off for today something that I can gain tomorrow, time zips by. And before you know it, you've arrived at that 3 to 6 month mark, and now you have your credit cards paid off, right? And then you're paying down your mortgage. So I really want us to focus on this area and move in this direction, right? That's really important that we move in this direction. And the way to do that today, to start, the thing that you can do right now is just take a minute and, here, I'm going to clear this. I want you to take just a minute and think about, where do I want to be 6 months from now? Now, if that's too far off, then think, where am I going to be in 1 month? And then just add time to that, 6 months. Then look out 1 year, then 2, then 5. Whoop, spazzed out on that. Then 5, and then 10 plus. But if you need to, start right here, maybe right here, and just start focusing on that 1 to 6 month time frame. And once you've thought about it, then you can set the goal, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to knock off credit card debt, number 1, right? Going to maybe spend less, right? Remember, it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend. So you can think about ways to, here, at least in the short term. And here's something that really, really helps to look and think long term, is if you can visualize in your mind that thing that you're going to achieve at the end of that time frame. So, for example, if you're looking 1 month ahead, just think about how good it's going to feel when you have an extra $50 or $25 that is in the bank. Even if you set aside that in an account, you'll be amazed at how good that feels. Because you want to start to think and get past this is what I get now versus what I get later. In other words, live like no one's willing to now so that you can live like no one can in the future, right? Right? It's delaying that immediate gratification. But here's the thing, and you're maybe perhaps not even delaying instant gratification, because if you can think in the now about what benefit you're going to get in the future, it helps bridge this gap, right? You can think about and visualize having that little extra in the bank. You start visualizing what it will mean to have that one credit card paid off. You start visualizing what it will be to have all your bills paid off. You can visualize what it feels like and what it will look like. And that's how you start to get into these longer time frames. Now, I want you to go back and look at those different classifications that we just talked about, right? The destitute versus the broke versus the impoverished, the lower middle class, upper middle class, wealthy and super rich. Just go back in this video, pause it, and look at it here on the screen, and just think about where do you fit, right? And what can you do to begin extending your time frame in terms of your thinking and planning. And if you do that, you will be prosperous. To that, I can guarantee. If you'd like to learn more, go on over to learnhowtoprosper.com and read more of my posts. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and you can find the link to my blog and to this post in the description box near this video. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Make it a great day.